If you were ever at a bar and you wanted to skip out on the bill by starting a fight, I want you to ask this specific question right here. And by the way, no, it has nothing to do with asking someone what their political views are or who they voted for in the last presidential elections. You see, the question that you want to ask if you're at a bar and you want to skip out on that $25 cocktail that now you're wondering why or how you're even going to pay for this is you should be asking, are credit cards bad, but are credit cards better than debit cards? You see, those are two very interesting questions that you can ask if you really wanted to start working a room. In fact, I'll probably ask you right now, do you think credit cards are bad? I'll give you a little time to think about that. Do you think that debit cards are better than credit cards? Do you think that credit cards are better than debit cards? Now, if you're answering this in either way, understand that there's no right or wrong answer because this is how you choose to live your financial lifestyle. But I did want to make this video right here because there are two different stories that are being told on whether or not someone should be using credit cards. And if so, why are credit cards, if you believe this, actually better for you than debit cards? So in this video, I'm going to break down some myths and I'm going to introduce some different points of view that would maybe change the way that you view credit cards. Now, obviously, I know that this video isn't for everyone. There are some people that are diehard fans of never using a credit card under any circumstance, and that's completely okay. And then you have someone on the other side of the board that all they do is use credit cards to the point that they literally have to whip out the scissors, cut their credit cards, go under the anonymous program, and swear that they would never use credit cards again. So I first want to lay down some framework and some guardrails on whether or not you should take this approach. And yes, I said that, whether or not you should take this approach, because let's be honest here, credit cards can be a weapon for good or can be a weapon for bad if used the wrong way. So first things first. Number one, if you have a spending problem, you should maybe consider only sticking to using debit cards. If you literally don't know how much money comes in, if you don't know how much money comes out, if you only know how much your paycheck amount is, but then 3 days later, you're wondering how the heck did your paycheck or your bank account go from $1,000 to $265 over a weekend, and you literally can't backtrack the amount of money that you spent or where that money went to. In other words, if you are an emotional or an impulsive shopper, you may want to get that fixed first before you start diving into reaping the rewards that comes and the responsibility that comes when dealing with credit cards. Secondly, you may want to steer clear of using these credit cards or using credit cards altogether and just sticking to your plan of paying for everything either cash or with a debit card, which, by the way, I still think you're leaving yourself, you're doing yourself a disservice by only using debit cards, which we'll get to that here in just a second. But second, if you only plan on using cash or debit card because you no longer need your credit, you plan, and I know that sounds crazy to say, but you only plan on purchasing properties cash, if you only plan on purchasing your vehicles cash, and you only plan on literally making every purchase until the day that you die with your debit card. Now, I know that that's a bold statement, but that's why I want you to kind of think about that for a second. I kind of want to shake up a little bit how we're viewing credit cards. Think about, okay, do I have $200,000 laying around where I can just throw in to my new business venture? Do I have $400,000 laying around where I have my primary residence, but I can go ahead and buy my secondary home? Or if I wanted to maybe purchase an Airbnb property or purchase a property that I can rent out, do I have enough capital where I don't need to go to the bank, where they're not going to take a look at my credit score, where I don't need to show them my statements of where my credit score is or how my spending has been? Am I seen as a risky, what we can call a person to lend to, or as a risky file? As a thin file is the actual term that's used in the credit world. If so, you may want to reconsider only using your debit card or only using cash. Now, the third reason why you may want to consider using your debit card and paying cash versus using a credit card is if you are still coming out of debt. Look, the intentions of this video is not to have you go out there and open up $5,000 worth of credit, or maybe go out and get a store credit, which I don't even believe in those anyways, those are terrible, or even go out and open up a new trade line if you just plan on putting yourself into more debt. I wouldn't want that for anyone watching this video, and I certainly don't want you getting into more debt, especially if your goal is to get out of debt if you're watching this right now. So if you have student loan debt that you're looking to get out of that first. If maybe there's a car that you're looking to pay off first before you tackle on more debt, get out of that first. If you wanted to pay off your mortgage first and maybe you have a year or two left, pay that off first. Or maybe if you have a high balance on a few credit cards and you want to bring that down under a 20% utilization, which is going to help boost your credit, or if you wanted to wipe those out completely, get out of that first. And I would totally understand, because at the end of the day, being debt free and having the responsibility to use your credit cards correctly is ultimately going to allow you to keep that line of credit ultimately freed up so that you can use it in an event for an emergency or for your business, which we are about to tackle here in just a second. Now, before we jump into using your credit card over your debit card, I want to thank our sponsors over at Rental Karma, where you can literally see a 30 to a 50 point jump on your credit score just by adding rental payments to your credit history. That's right. This is another way that you can boost your credit score without having to add an additional credit card or having to add any type of secured or unsecured loan to your name. I would check that out because you get a 25% discount by using the coupon code down in the description. Now, why in the world would anyone use a credit card over a debit card? I'm going to give you my personal experience, which is really the first reason here, and that's going to be protection. That's right. A few years ago, I was holiday shopping for a gift for family members and a couple of friends, right? And I remember going to a store. When I left that store, I went to the mall across the street. When I went to the mall across the street, I was looking frantically for my debit card, which I couldn't find. And then all of a sudden, I ended up going to the other store, couldn't find it there. So guess what's the first thing I did, right? I immediately panicked, which I probably should have done this first the minute that I realized, but it was about a 30-minute gap. The minute that I realized that I didn't have my debit card on me, I went ahead and put a freeze and a lock, and I reported the debit card stolen. Now, remember, this was with my debit card, not with my credit card. What ended up happening now was I had to literally call my bank because I saw that there was a $100 purchase that was ran on my debit card. Now, at that time, the way that I ran my finances is I would have two separate accounts. I would have one account where I would transfer the money into my debit card. So in the event something like this would happen, which apparently it ended up happening. So I only had about maybe about $110 on that debit card, on that debit account. These people ended up buying gift cards really at a gas station right down the street from where I was at. Maybe about 2-3 gift cards, literally a pack of beer, and I think like a stick of gum is what the report said. So when I went to dispute that, it took about 2 weeks for me to get that money retrieved, which was a complete bummer because at that time I wasn't in the best financial space like I am today. And so $100 at that time for me was a lot of money, especially since I was holiday shopping. And so waiting 2 weeks, yeah, it put me kind of in this space of crap. I'm not going to be able to have a happy holiday because I wanted to give gifts to other people. But I ended up getting that money back just in time, thank God, because now I was able to finish my holiday shopping. But I tell you that story because I want you to understand that the protection between a debit card and the protection between a credit card are not the same thing. You see, with a debit card, having that dispute, and you'll know if you've lost your credit card, having that dispute takes a lot longer to have that money hit your account back. And in fact, there's a lower limit for how much money you're actually protected for in the event you either lose your debit card or your debit card, or that debit card gets used up. On the other side of that, if I were using my credit card, that money would be immediately back, or really be immediately restored by the credit card issuer. So let's say if I was using an American Express or a Chase or a Discover, just to give you an example. And on top of that, in the event that, let's say I'm wearing this hoodie right here, I leave it at the airport, somebody steals it, whatever happens, I can literally call my credit card company and say, hey, my sweater was literally stolen, I can't find it. They will do one of two things. They will literally reimburse me for the amount of that purchase, or I can literally go back to that store and they would make that purchase for me. Now, second, it's one that we probably all know and we hate at the same time, and that's the fact that we all need to have credit at one point or another. Again, like I mentioned earlier, unless you're walking around with a significant amount of cash where you're literally going to be purchasing every single investment that you have cash, odds are you're most likely going to need your credit at one point, especially if you are maybe in a financial space where you're not even at the point where you're thinking about investing. Heck, you're right now thinking about, I'm just looking for a place to rent. Well, guess what? The way that things are looking, especially with the way that the pandemic has shifted, the way that landlords now view tenants and how much evictions we're still kind of facing headed into the next couple of months, especially with these forbearances and these eviction protections that have been added and prolonged, landlords are going to take a more strict look on tenants before they actually have them come in. So one thing that you can do to prepare yourself is make sure that your credit is at least a 650 credit score or higher. And the only way to do this is by continually using your credit cards responsibly, because let's be honest here, the only other way around that would be to become an authorized user for someone else. And guess what that means? That means that that person has a credit card that they're using constantly that reports on your file. So I know that the name of the game isn't always fair when it comes to you having to use your credit cards, but if this is how the game is played, we at least have to know the rules and play the game wisely and use it to our advantage. And speaking of using the credit cards to our advantage, this leads me to reason number 3 of why credit cards are an optimal choice when you are building your wealth and when you are looking to find loopholes in the system. There's only so much that you can do with a debit card. You literally swipe and it comes out of your account, and that's it, right? Now, while most people like that because it's an easy process, let's be honest here. If you already have that money in your account, and believe me, you want to be responsible with this, but if you have the money in your account and you know that you are going to be making these gas purchases and you know that you are going to go out and buy clothes and you know that you're going to go out and buy groceries and you want to travel and that money is already sitting in your debit card, you might as well reap some benefits for that card by either getting some cash back on that money, reaping some rewards, or getting some free flight miles, which will literally allow you to travel across the country literally for 10, 15, even 20 bucks. I'm not exaggerating. I mean, you can just look through YouTube of different videos of people that are literally traveling across the world. If maybe traveling doesn't necessarily turn you on, just kind of think of this. Every time that you swipe, you can get a 1, 2, 3, and in some instances, depending on the credit card that you get, a 6% cash back on the money that you spend. Versus a debit card, that's it. It's left your account. So at least with a credit card, you're literally getting paid to shop. Now, I don't know about you, but my time is worth money. And I want to make sure that I'm getting paid for my time, even if it's out there buying things. And so that's one of the ways that I can ensure that I'm getting paid at least for something that I enjoy doing. Now, in my opinion, this last reason may be probably the most important one, but it all depends on what you want to do. If you're looking to build wealth and you're looking to buy a house, guess what? You are going to need credit, especially if you are looking to lower or get a lower interest rate on the property that you're looking to purchase, which is going to save you thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, since your credit will say a 720 over having a subpar 620, 630 credit score, just because you maybe added an extra line of credit or maybe use that credit a little bit more. And heck, you paid it down every month at the end of the month completely in full. I want to go ahead and take this a step further, because apart from applying for a mortgage and apart from getting a car under your name or under your business name that you can later write off legally, right, and your taxes, you also have business credit. And one of the best and fastest ways to establish business credit is by having strong personal lines of credit. This is literally when you can take a $40,000, $50,000 line of credit, assuming that right now you maybe don't want to take on an unsecured loan from a bank. You can literally have that credit card that you can use. You don't need to use your own money upfront. Now, obviously, you want to be extremely responsible with this, and you want to do your research with your own business and make sure that it's going to yield you some profitability on the back end. You'll go ahead and swipe that business credit card, which then becomes a business write-off on the back end, which then you can separate what's a business transaction and what's a personal transaction, all with your credit cards, rather than having to use your personal lines wondering, okay, was this a personal? Was this a business? Okay, should I put this on the LLC? Oh, wait, should I put this on my name? It just makes everything way more confusing, and believe me, this is going to save you tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, and even make you that amount of money and then some when you leverage your debt correctly by using your business lines of credit versus using your personal lines of credit or even using your personal debit card. Well, there you have it. Those are my reasons why using a credit card over a debit card is far better, especially if you are looking to leverage your credit to build financial freedom. Now, obviously, there's no right or wrong answer. And if you still want to continue using your debit card, you certainly can. Just remember there are downsides and upsides to anything that you do when it comes to your finances. Just make sure that you are being financially responsible in any route that you decide to take. So there you have it. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. join the official community. Don't forget that anytime I'm not posting on here, I'm posting over on the Inside with Irv show, which is our podcast style channel. So if you like what we have going on over here, you'll love what we have going on over there. And of course, I couldn't close this video out without inviting you over to our exclusive member group, where you get some behind the scenes tools and financial resources that you can start applying on day one to help you boost your credit, increase your income, and ultimately make you a more profitable business owner. So if you like how that sounds, make sure to check that description down in the bottom. Once again, I appreciate you guys watching. Until next time, everyone, I will see you in the next video.